Hello and welcome back to our Formula World Series Upshift. I'm your host, Pitstop Nick, and throughout the series we'll be chatting to a variety of incredible drivers who will be telling us about their stories, their careers so far, and their aspirations for the future. So sit back, relax, and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Today's guest is a huge talent on the rise in single-seaters. He's a race winner in both British F4 and the GB3 Championship, and he recently made the leap to Formula 3. He is also officially the 2023 Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year. So please welcome Joseph Loake. Welcome. I'm very excited to have you on, excited to chat to you and share your story with our viewers. A lot of people were very excited when you were announced. So yeah, thank you for coming on.
Not a problem.
So I actually have something here that you might be a little bit surprised by. When I was researching, I knew you were British. I didn't know where you were from. Now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can see it.
So my dad grew up in Macclesfield. And
Really?
I live in Manchester, but my grandma still lives in Macclesfield. So I go to most of the home games. I'm a big Macclesfield FC fan.
Really?
So there you go.
Crazy. Small world, isn't it?
Isn't it? Because I thought, do you know what? Let me have a look. And then I saw Macclesfield and I thought, not many people are from Macclesfield. It's not often you meet someone, a fellow.
Oh, that's cool. Fun fact, the first ever football game I went to was my dad's favourite team, Man City, versus Macclesfield Town.
No.
It was a friendly when I was less than a year old. I reckon probably eight months old, maybe. My dad got me this tiny little Man City shirt about that big.
Oh.
Got it on me. And
did you not feel like you were a traitor? Because I'm guessing you grew up in Macclesfield, so supporting Man City against Macclesfield.
Yeah, no, it's funny that it was my first game to go to. It was quite good.
Tell me a little bit about growing up in Macclesfield, what it was like, and how you first got into karting or racing in general.
So when I would have been probably 9 or so, I'd say. I started go-karting with my dad in Buxton, which is a little go-kart track around there. It was only 250 meters or something long, but it was just fun for me and my dad to just turn up, just have a bit of a laugh, hit each other off. We always had to beg them to put me in the quick karts because they wouldn't really let me. I think you had to be 12 or something, but I got to the point where I was, we were saying, well, I'm quite clearly I'm not going to go and hurt myself or anything. Just let me drive it. So in the end, managed to convince them to let us do that. And then one day one of their workers turned around and said, he's quite decent. You should probably try and get him to actually race. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh yeah, that'd be well cool. Obviously as probably 10 years, well, it would have been nearly turning 10 at that point. My high school that I was just about to start going to, they had a karting club associated with them. So I joined that, started racing with them, and then kind of it just spiraled upwards from then.
Wow, that's amazing. So I love that you were racing against your dad. That's so good. And I bet now he just looks on and says, do you remember when we were back in those karts together?
Well, he always tells people when he's telling the story about how I started, he always goes, well, I'd always beat him the moment he didn't. I lost to him. We never raced again.
Oh, fair enough.
So yeah, it was just that kind of dad lad bonding time that you always try to have. I think it was every other weekend we'd go and just try and enjoy ourselves.
Oh, amazing. And at what point would you say that you really decided that karting was something that you wanted to do competitively and that you wanted to commit to?
Like I say, it was probably when the workers at the karting track went to my dad and said, look, he's actually all right at this. You should give him a go. And I think I was, obviously as a kid, if you get told that you're good at something, you go, oh, I want to do it more. Mm-hmm. So then I think my dad kind of knew already that was what I was going to want to try and do. He hadn't looked into the money, and I think if he had, then he probably wouldn't have been so what's the word? So happy to
eager.
So eager. That's the word. Wouldn't have been so eager, but yeah.
Well, it's a good job that you didn't.
Yeah, true. No, it's given me a lot of opportunities, and I got a lot further than what I thought I ever would so far. And obviously, I'm still quite a way away from where I could get to. So, we'll see.
Amazing. So, am I right in thinking that you made the transition from karting to the BRDC Junior Championship? Was that your
yes
step from karting? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I did that.
So for our audience that aren't aware what the series is, it's obviously a sports series for the UK Touring Car Championship. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience in that, and I guess how you developed your driving style and what the jump was like?
It was definitely a challenge, especially because I was, I was only just 14 by the time I was racing.
Wow.
So I was so used to driving a car for 4 years. That's all I'd been doing. Then all of a sudden hopping into a race car that, it's quite daunting. It's quite a big thing when you're that young. And you could tell that I was very, very nervous, very scared, and probably almost not far off dangerous from how scared I was of racing other cars and stuff. But it taught me very quickly. And I think because I threw myself in at the deep end in cars that young, I think it gave me the opportunities to kind of always have that step up ready. So I was always kind of ready for the next step. And that's something that I think has carried through quite well. Even now, I feel like if you were to put me in an F2 car now, I think I could do a good job. And, it's kind of being ready for the step up is something that it really helped prepare me for.
Yeah, and being able to adapt so quickly and being out of your comfort zone. Because I think if you can get used to that, then you can get used to anything for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And I think that's been put to the test quite a lot throughout my career as well. Being a family that doesn't have the sort of backing that a lot of the others do, it's quite, it is quite difficult to stay on the same level as the guys around me, because they are doing 50 days before you're even racing, and it's just sometimes so difficult to keep up with them. And it is a challenge, but something that I've got used to by now, and it's something that I quite enjoy.
So in British F4, you raced for JHR and you had some quite eventful races, some incredible races. How did you find the jump from cars to single seaters, and what was your biggest learning curve?
Again, the jump was quite big. You'd gone from a tin top that had front wheel drive, not much power, to a rear wheel drive single seater. So it was definitely tricky, but I'm a firm believer that a car is a car. And if you can drive a car in some place, then you can drive any car. So yeah, I mean, it didn't go smoothly. I could say that for free. Pre-season was quite tricky. A lot of the team didn't like me by the time we got to round one, just because I'd come from Fiestas, I'd won everything, and then I was in F4 where obviously everyone's a lot better, the competition is a lot stronger, and I thought I was the best on the grid, but I wasn't. And I think the team saw me as a very cocky, arrogant little kid at the end of the day, and I was. I think I was. I think it's something that I like to think I'm not now, but back then it was. Looking back, I can see why I had I had the reputation I did within the team for sure.
I think you've got to have that confidence, and that, you're a sportsman at the end of the day. You've got to back yourself, and so much of it is mindset. And I think that's often underestimated. So I don't think necessarily confidence is a bad thing, especially, in single seaters. You've really got to believe in yourself so that other people do.
Yeah, but I think there's a way of going about it. And I think that was what I hadn't quite got down to a T yet. I still believe in myself like crazy. And I can very confidently say to myself that I think I can win a Formula One World Championship one day. But, you don't go around shouting it at people. You don't, you're not going to go into the race team and go, I want this. And they say, why? And then I say, because it's better and it's what I want. And then they go, but why do you want it? And you say, I don't know, but I just know. And it's like, you can't really do that, but that was what I did. And it was something that I learned very quick. And I think JHR was so good for that for me. I spent 3 years in the team, and it modeled me massively, not just as a driver, but as a person. And the person that I am now, you wouldn't have even imagined 3-4 years ago before I joined the team. So I lay a lot down to JHR. Wherever I get to in my career, I'd say the biggest part of it was my stint at JHR, because it was they taught me a lot, and also molded me around a good baseline that I can work off.
For sure. You had two really strong seasons in British F4, and I think you've definitely made headlines, definitely recently as well. So when you made the move to the GB3 Championship last year, you achieved 8 podiums, half of which you were on the top stat, which is something to be very proud of. What would you say was the main factor that contributed to your success in the series, and what have you taken away from it with you into F3?
So GB3 was actually very unexpected. I really did not expect to do well at all. F4 had come from quite a disappointing year. F4 in 2022, it was quite a shame because I think with the new car and JHR's lesser budget than a lot of the other teams, it was going to be really tricky to be at the front. But at the time, it felt like the right choice to stay with them, and I think, to be honest, I wouldn't change that now. If I'd have gone to, Carlin at the time, I don't think it would have necessarily helped me in any way, because then I'd have been stuck after that year. So, but yeah, no, F4 was very disappointing. But I had the self-belief, but going into GB3, I didn't think I would be anywhere near a championship fight. I think at the start of the year, if I'd have been on the podium a couple of times, I'd have taken it. If I'd have won a race, I would have been over the moon. And that was something that I did not even think would happen. And then the fact that turned up at round 1 on pole and won the first race, that was something that I think kind of reignited the self-belief a little bit, and kind of made me think, you know what, maybe I could do something quite cool in motorsport. And it was a bit of a dream weekend, that first weekend. So
yeah. Wow. I bet it really gave you the boost that you needed, and probably, that confidence that you needed off the back of your second season in F4. Yeah. What were some of the hardest moments, I guess, of being in GB3, and were there any ups and downs for you that you can really remember and really take from?
I mean, for sure, some of the ups were, Alton Park, Brands Hatch, I'd say were the 2 weekends that were, really good for me. But I kind of had a little feeling that if I was going to do well, it would be at those 2. I turned up at Alton, and it's a good track for me. I do like it. It's 40 minutes away from my house, and I just love it. I had my whole family there, and I felt just really positive. Even though I was actually unwell that weekend.
Oh, really?
Little fun fact for you. Yes, I woke up on the morning of qualifying with a really, really bad stomach.
Oh, God.
It wasn't nice, but luckily it didn't affect me at all. But it's kind of one of those where when you're unwell in a race car, you don't really notice it. Like, unless you're really unwell. But if you've got a cold or something, at the moment you're on track, you're fine. I think I was unwell for about 3 race weekends last year.
You wouldn't have been able to tell.
Well, I mean, Alton, I wasn't unwell, but I wasn't great. And then it's one of the Silverstone rounds, I was really bad. Like, I woke up on the morning, and it was like I couldn't even walk straight. I don't think I was like that unwell. But then I was fine after that. You just get in the car and you're fine. So, but yeah, anyway, as in terms of down weekends, I'd say Snetterton was a pretty rough one. But I'd say, again, it goes back to that mindset that you need to have as a driver. And it was something that I had completely wrong going into the weekend. My teammate, Matt Rees, he is very good at Snetterton. There's no denying that. I mean, he was on pole, and there's a reason for it. But I went into the weekend knowing that I couldn't beat him. And that's something that you can't do. And it's something I'll never do again. But I went into the weekend saying, as long as I'm there or thereabouts from that, I'm happy. And I should have been going into it going, no, I have to be P1. Otherwise, what's the point in turning up? And that was what I got wrong on that weekend. Then another properly low point was Zandvoort. Actually, even though I was on the podium, after the practice day, I think it was the Friday, I had a really rough day. I think I was like P23 or something in practice. It just was not going well. And I was really starting to feel the pressure of the championship as well, because it was really hotting up. It was in the second to last weekend. And there was like 20 points between the top 3. And I genuinely thought that it was within reaching distance, and it was. And then it was really getting to me. I don't think the car was that strong that weekend anyway. I was, really struggling that Friday. I remember sitting on the barrier, not like it was a barrier inside the paddock, one of the spare ones.
Safety first.
Yes, exactly. I remember sat on it, and I sat there and just kind of, I think I actually cried and just sat there, just going, what's going on? I can't, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And something that I think I've only mentioned this once before. Ed Pearson, who is a friend of mine now, he was in GB3 last year. He saw me over there and came over to me, like properly, helped me and almost saved my weekend a little bit, because it kind of, again, it twisted my whole mindset. And that's something that is so important. But yeah, no, that was definitely a low point as well. Those two, Snettison and Zandvoort, for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting how low of a weekend you can be having, but then, come out on the podium, because the numbers and the results don't tell the story. And whatever series you're in, a lot of the time people just take the position finished at face value. But, I think if you can demonstrate on track how capable you are and that you can get over adversity, then that's much stronger than just winning and having a really easy race. But something I find really interesting is that a lot of drivers are often so critical of their performance and such perfectionists, because, that's what you're trying to strive for, the perfect lap, the perfect race. Yet have to have this confidence and self-belief that almost they kind of oppose each other, because you're sort of in a state of almost trying to prove that you're the best and win the races, but also at the same time be so critical. Is that something that you struggle with at all?
Yes, it is actually. It is, because sometimes you'll have a good weekend or something like that, and then you can almost get complacent, and you can think, well, I was quickest, so it's all good. But then you could turn up the next race weekend and you could be P10, and then all of a sudden, what do you do? Because you've then not spent however many weeks you had to prepare for that race. You didn't spend all of that efficiently, and then you've already lost out. So, the way that again, it's something that I learned in GB3 and something that I'm improving on now. I'm sure it's something that, everybody does and it's possible to do. But yeah, I found that, if I had a good result, I would make sure that I told Mike Epps, who is my driver coach. I'd go to him and I'd say, look, I know I've done a good job, but it's not as good as it could be. So I want you to go and look at everything that I did wrong, and I want you to just absolutely slander me for it. And then it got to the point. It is, but it works, and I think it's the way that Mike works as well. So, for example, when I was on pole at Alton, we came in and Mike said to me, "You made a mistake at turn 3 and a mistake at another corner, whatever it was." And I said, "Yeah, but the rest of the lap was good." And he said, "I don't care. You've made 2 mistakes."
Tough love.
And that's kind of how it is. So, I think it's really important to do that, because then if someone else doesn't make those 2 mistakes, and they'll be quicker than you, and then then you're not the quickest anymore. So, it's very important to always be improving, because everybody is. You can look at a driver from a year ago who maybe was doing quite badly in whatever championship they were in. You can look at them now and they're doing great. So it's kind of that in between of, you almost can't judge people off what they are at the moment as well. Like you've got to expect them to get better and stuff like that. So it's important.
Yeah. You mentioned your coach as well. How did that relationship come about? Was he recommended to you? Did you know him already? And tell me a little bit about, I guess, like what training is like for you and what race weekends like for you in terms of, the coaching side of things.
Yeah. So Mike Epps, he originally was the driver coach for Matthew Rees in 2021. It was him and Callan O'Keefe who kind of were the 2 people behind Matt Rees for F4 in the year that he won it. And obviously I was Matt's teammate. So I knew him from there. And then I think Mike started a relationship with Steve Hunter, who ran JHR. And I think Steve then went to Mike and said, "Is there any chance that you could coach the F4 drivers in 2022? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he was coaching me and Georgi Dimitrov. And then halfway through the year, Georgie decided that he didn't want to be sharing a coach. So I then had Mike to myself for the rest of the year. And me and Mike just kind of formed a bit of a relationship from there. So yeah, it's been really nice to have him alongside me. And I mentioned before how important the mindset is, and he is the main person behind me having a good mindset for whatever situation I'm in. Sometimes he will lie to me and he'll say stuff that maybe I don't want to hear, and sometimes he'll say stuff that I do want to hear, and he just knows what to say for that situation. So maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself, or I'm getting overconfident or something like that. He will very happily lie to me and say something to make sure that I'm not, bigging myself
track.
Up too much. Yeah, and it'll just
literally.
bring me back down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no pun.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And yeah, that's exactly what he's useful for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Yeah. I mean, we've been working with each other for 3 years now, and I'd say we're actually erring on the. I'd hope we're erring on the side of friends now rather than just colleagues. So.
Sure.
Just when you get to know someone that well, it's always useful to have them there.
Yeah.
Just as a second pair of eyes.
Yeah. And so it's no secret that you won a very exciting award last year. The prestigious Young Driver of the Year award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There have been some incredible drivers that have won it previously, like Jenson Button, David Coulthard, Lando Norris, George Russell. How did it feel receiving that award? And when you found out you'd won, just try and put into words how that felt.
Yeah, you can't really. I can't really. You can't put it into words. Like, even now, I still think about the night that I won it, and just think about like the whole of the award process. And yeah, the fact that I won it it still blows my mind. It was obviously something I didn't expect. I was already happy enough to be in the top 4, but I knew that I was against some really good drivers, and I didn't expect to win it. I knew I mean, like I say, I have a lot of self-confidence. I knew I'm pretty decent, but I didn't think I was going to be good enough to beat those 2. Those 3. Still speechless.
No words. Yeah, I thought that might be the case. Yeah. You mentioned the assessment, and I was reading a bit about it and the significant rounds and amounts of, I guess, tests and assessments that you had to do for the selection process and to make it to the final. Could you tell me, for our audience, a little bit about how that went and what it was like?
Yes, it was very difficult. Obviously, we started. What did we start at? I think we started off with the simulator tests at Mercedes. At Mercedes Formula 1, we went on the F1 sim there. Did a couple of days. A day there. It was spread out over 2 days for us 4. They did one of us in the morning, one of us in the afternoon for both the days. And yeah, we basically just drove on the F1 sim. They didn't just look at lap times; they looked at driving styles, potential habits that we have that aren't good, potential habits that we have that are good. And yeah, they kind of tested us off that. Yeah, we went to Silverstone, and then that was the main one. We drove the Formula 2 cars, the LMP3 car and the GT3 car, which went really well. I think it rained on the second day, which I think properly saved me because
okay, you're used to driving in the rain.
Oh, I just like the rain, and Silverstone's a track that I've got a lot of confidence in the wet there because I've had a lot of days where it's been pretty wet around there, so I've kind of had to figure it out. In the wet. So I was like, well, he's going to be quick, isn't he? So, but yeah, in the end, I think, quite a bit quicker than the others in the wet. I think in the dry, we were all fairly close. You like it was one session, maybe I'd be P1, then I'd be P4, and then I'd be P2, and then I'd be P4, and then I'd be P1 or something like that. And it was so up and down, and it was the same for all of the others. I think that was why it was so difficult for the judges to kind of decide a winner, just because of that. And it was obviously really nerve-wracking for us. I think, to be honest, it came down to how we handled ourselves off the track as well. We were doing a lot of media stuff there, and I think a lot of the people that were doing the filming and the interviews and stuff, they were feeding back what they thought of us to the judges. Wow. And that was the bit that I didn't even think that they'd be looking at. I thought they'd be looking at the driver mainly, and maybe just general feeling of how we are as a person. But no, they were getting all sorts of information off as many people as they could.
Well, you obviously impressed them.
Well, I must have done. I think there was one judge in particular that definitely took to me. It was Johnny Herbert. I'm still in contact with him now, actually. And even that was weird, because obviously knowing that, I mean, not just Johnny, but all of the judges have been at the top of motorsport in one way or another at some point. Every single one of them, it was an honor to just speak to them and meet them. But obviously Johnny Herbert is probably the biggest name. Like if you were to say everyone's name to someone, someone would, like a normal person, someone would probably say Johnny Herbert. He's just a lovely bloke. Like I spoke to him at the award. We had a couple of inside jokes that we kind of picked up on straight away, and I think he just really liked the way that we just got on, I think. And so I I know he does like me, and we speak to each other a lot. He helped me get into the Formula One paddock in Melbourne. Got me in contact with a few people, and it's quite nice to have someone like him on your side, but also just to have someone like that to be able to speak to and get advice off and stuff like that. So yeah, Johnny's a bit of a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. And personality is such an important part these days. Like, as much as people can argue whether it should or shouldn't be, people do look at how you talk and how good you are on camera, and they talk about commercials all the time. So I guess just being personable and being likable is definitely something that not only teams but sponsors are looking for, of course.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the most important things, especially in this day and age with social media and all of that stuff. So, it's really important to be marketable at the end of the day. And if you're quite boring, you don't really speak very well, and you're not really very, what's the word?
Charismatic.
Charismatic is a good word, but I'm trying to think of charismatic is what we use.
It'll do.
But like if you're not really giving anything, then it's hard for someone to really take to you.
Dry.
Yeah, dry. As long as you're not dry, yeah. So yeah, no, it is quite. It's an important part of motorsport, and it's something that I made sure that I didn't fall into that trap of from day one. Like when I first went into F4, I had a few people come to me and say, look, you can't act this way. You have to be professional. You have to be this. You have to be that. And I said, yeah, but why? Because if I do that, then I'm the same as everyone else, and then nobody's going to choose me over them. So, at the end of the day, especially in Formula 3, we're all good drivers. Like we're all there because we deserve to be there. We are in the elite few now that have made it this far and potentially could make it all the way. You just have to be in the right place at the right time. So when you're all at the same level, you have to stand out in some way or another, and that's something that I try and do. The first thing I did when I walked into the F3 kind of media stuff at the start of the year, so they do all of the photos, things like that. I didn't just do it because I had to. It was obviously part of me and who I am anyway, but I made sure that I got that side of me across, and I said I was just being nice, being bubbly, and being happy to everyone, and now they all love me. So, or at least I think they do. They say that they do.
That's so interesting. And to be honest, I bet there were so many eyeballs on you after you won the award. A lot of publicity, I'm sure. How did your career change from that point on, and how, I guess, have you adapted to almost being in the spotlight now?
Yeah, it's been weird to have people coming over to me and recognizing me and
Hmm.
things like that. Is something that I'm still quite new to, and I don't think I'll ever get used to. And I actually don't want to get used to it, because the moment I get used to it is when I feel like it's I don't know, it just wouldn't feel special anymore if I got used to it. But um, yeah, it's just the fact that people are coming over to me, recognizing me, and are almost acknowledging what I'm doing as well. Because I have a lot of people that used to say, "Oh, cool, you race cars. I could race a car." And it's like, yeah, but it's not really the same. And
Feel
then you'd
like
have to
that.
explain it. And
Yeah.
then you'd go in for a conversation for half an hour. Whereas people now will say, "Oh, that's so cool. I wish one day I could be an F3." And then it puts it into perspective that, I'm in a lucky place that so many people would dream to be. And um, yeah, it just reminds me of how much of a privilege it is to just be racing on this sort of a level.
Mm. You say luck, but it's all hard work. So,
You got to have a bit of luck as well.
yeah,
It's not.
true, true.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's a privilege is more the point that I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure,
yeah,
you
of
can
course.
you can be the best in the world, whatever, but it doesn't matter if you get to Formula One, Formula Two, Formula Three. It's still such a privilege to be
Mm.
there, and it is something that people would dream of. And um, the fact that I get to live some people's dreams is just quite
Pretty
special.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is cool. It's proper cool.
yeah. Do you remember the moment that you found out that you'd be racing an F3? And how did your friends and family react when you told them the news?
Um, it was it was quite tricky to make it happen, to be fair, because obviously my budget is so low.
Hmm.
So when Sam Wappel, who runs the Formula 3 team for Rodin, when he got in contact with me after the award and said, "Look, we'd quite like to get you in for Formula 3, and what sort of a budget do you have?" And I said, "Well, I'm sure you're hoping for a bit more, but this is what I've got." And
Mm.
he just kind of laughed, I think, to start with. And he was like, "Okay, that's going to be a bit difficult." But he said, I'll come back to you. I'll let you know." Then I think he went off, spoke to a load of people. I think David Dicker was a huge part of it. Um, obviously he owns Rodin, and just taken over the team, and I think he really wants to push the team forward. So I think Sam managed to convince him that I was the guy that they needed, and he managed to get the deal through. But even a few days before he came back to me and said that we could do it, I was assuming that it wasn't possible, because it was such a little budget. And
Mm.
yeah, I didn't expect to be able to do the season. But yeah, incredibly grateful for it. Yeah, when I actually finally signed the contract and everything like that, I think I was one of the last people to sign for the season. um but that's nothing new.
Was it
It
January that you
was
signed the contract?
it was February.
Wow. Gosh. Yeah, that's
So
cutting it quite fine.
yeah, no, I think it was only maybe 2 weeks before the announcement that I signed.
Wow.
um and obviously I was already announced quite late.
Mm.
So there was people that had been already announced and had probably already done 20 days in a GP3 car,
Hmm.
sorry. And I didn't even know what I was doing the year after.
Yeah.
um
So yeah, how much testing did you get, and what did your pre-season look like, no matter how short it was?
it was very short, to the point that it didn't exist.
Yeah.
I didn't drive a car from the Young Driver of the Year award. I didn't drive a car until Bahrain pre-season.
Oh
Um,
gosh, that
so
that must have been quite intense then.
yeah, no, it was very full on. Obviously, it was there was always the risk that I wasn't going to be up to speed for round one, and
Mm.
I wasn't. To be quite honest, I was not prepared. I still didn't really know what was going on with the car. I didn't know what to do, and obviously, a car is a car, but just finding the little bits here and there
Mm.
is something that I didn't have time to figure out in Bahrain. I think there's still a lot that I need to figure out now. I think I did okay in Bahrain, and obviously Australia. I had a pretty good sprint race, but I'm still, what is it? Probably not even 10 days into driving the car, and that's with the limited running that we have, where we only do maybe 20 laps over the course of a whole day anyway. So, um, Yeah, it has been quite tricky. Obviously, the GP3 testing is where a lot of the guys get a lot of the running in, and that's where the difference is made. I am looking at trying to get a few days here and there at some of the tracks that I haven't done. But for example, Imola, I've never driven there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do the end of season test last year, and that's going to be really tricky. But it's something that I'm used to. All the way through my career, I've never had the sort of pre-season testing that a lot of the other guys have done, and I've always had to go into seasons on the back foot. But it's never stopped me, and I won't let it now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all
Adapt
good.
and learn.
Exactly.
And yeah, so what did your first race feel like when you were sat there literally ready to go? What were the feelings, if there were any? Because you hear
Yeah.
a lot of people say that you just sort of go into a different headspace completely when you're behind the wheel.
Yeah, you do a little bit. I think, yeah, I was quite nervous, but I think at the same time, it's just a race. Like that's what I was telling myself anyway. It's not just a race; it's Formula 3. But I remember sitting on the grid. My start was really strong. The race was okay. I mean, I managed my tires awfully because I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
But I think I'd only done one race run before before the actual race, so
Ooh.
I was kind of trying to figure that one out on the fly. Yeah, again, I didn't do too bad of a job. I think the nerves were quite high, but once you settled into the race and everything's kind of going kind of as it's going, you kind of get into the swing of things. You just get used to it, and that was kind of what happened. I think. Yeah, by the time we got halfway through the first race, I was pretty comfy, and it kind of becomes the new normal almost, which is weird to say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I guess, you're thrown in the deep end, and sharing a track with F1 and F2, has that felt a little bit surreal?
Yeah, it has been. Just racing on a Formula One weekend is like
Next
mind
level.
blowing in itself, because
Yeah.
obviously you'll have just been on track, you'll come off the track, you'll go for lunch or something, let's say, and then you'll be looking at the screen watching, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen all going around the track that you've just driven on 20 minutes ago. And then obviously you walk out of the catering and you look at Formula One teams. And it's you just you almost, you are like a kid in a candy shop almost. Like when when you're a little 5-year-old, you look around, look at that,
absolutely.
yeah, that is what you do, or that's what I've been doing anyway. I don't know if it's the same for the
Make
others,
the
but
most of it. Yeah, I would absolutely be.
yeah, no, for sure. It's it doesn't not become special. Like it doesn't become not special. Sorry, just because I think it's just so surreal to be there and to be, yeah, it's just surreal in every way.
And when you've spent so much of your time, I guess, building up to moments like these, it probably feels a little bit like a pinch me moment.
Yes,
and when you love motorsport so much, it's hard not to get excited about.
Yeah, for sure.
Just seeing cars on track going that fast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's unreal, and it's something that I could have only ever dreamed of even 6 months ago, probably. Well, we in April, would have been the end of GB3. Yeah, I couldn't have even dreamed of it then. So, yeah, it is, surreal.
Yeah. So how have you found driving for Rodin so far? Has there been anything that's been totally different to what you expected? How have the team been to work with?
I don't think there's been anything that's caught me off guard. There's been a few things that have been maybe a bit different to what I would have thought. There's a lot of talking that goes on. There's a lot of debriefs, everything like that.
Yeah.
There's a bit more publicity, but it's actually not as much as what I thought it'd be.
Right.
I thought there'd be a lot more to do in terms of that side of things. But to be honest, I don't think you have enough time to to really do anything else, because you're just constantly doing debriefs, talking about what we can improve, things like that. And it is really important, that side of things, because the cars have to be perfect in Formula 3. And I think it shows how perfect everyone is, because all of the teams are going like that through the whole year. And, apart from Prema. So, I think there was a few things that definitely caught me off guard, but overall, it's not been as crazy as of a jump as what I thought it'd be.
That's good. And I think you probably needed that, given how last minute things felt. Probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite nervous just, putting myself in F3, to be honest. Even after Sam came back to me and said, look, we can make it work, I sat there and I think I sat in a dark room and just thought about it for half an hour. And I just couldn't get my head around the fact that I was going to be racing in F3. And I didn't actually know if I was ready because, just 2 years ago, I was in F4. And obviously, yeah, it sounds like F4 is F3 is the next step from F4, but it's not. It's very difficult to make that step. And, I'd made so many mistakes in GB3 as well throughout the year that I just didn't know if I was mentally ready. I thought I was probably quick enough, and I think I can on a good day I can put in a really good performance, but I didn't know if I'd be able to do that for a whole year, and I didn't know if that would almost hinder me too much. But then I kind of said to myself, well, it's not every day that you get an F3 offer, is it? And especially in my situation, so I couldn't turn it down, and I'm glad I didn't, because already I think I'm starting to pick up some good habits and stuff like that I can definitely bring forward. And I think some of the connections I'm starting to make and some of the people I'm meeting is, really, really good. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't change any decision. That's for sure.
Amazing. You're definitely in the best position that you could be, meeting people, and it's such a people sport, isn't it? It's about who you know, for sure. So yeah, getting that sort of exposure and having those conversations and being in the room with the right people is so key to progressing your career, for sure. But you've got a bit of time before Imola. So what are you doing between now and then to prepare and to feel the best you can in the car?
Mainly training. I'm in the gym 6 days a week at the moment.
Wow.
Obviously barring, the odd day where it's not possible, I'm busy doing something, but yeah, mainly just training. I'm doing a lot of sim work as well. I've been doing a lot of preparation for Imola, but also the Barcelona test that we've got in the middle of April, which I think is going to be quite good for me. Actually, it'll let me learn and kind of develop a lot more on a track that I know as well. I've driven Barcelona before, so it should let me learn a bit quicker and kind of figure things out a lot more about the car and what exactly it wants. So yeah, that's going to be quite cool. But after we get back from Barcelona again, just back training, obviously I've got the Formula One test later in the year, so I need to make sure I'm prepared for that. I need to have a bit of a stronger neck than what I do now. I think I don't think I'll ever be able to fully prepare myself for it. But
the G-force, I bet, is just going to be out of this world.
Yeah,
sure. What are you going to be doing to prepare that? Mainly neck training, I imagine.
Yeah. From what I've heard, it's the steering's not the trouble, but it's the neck is going to be quite tough. Apparently, I was speaking to Jess Hawkins in Melbourne, and she was saying that it's just unreal how hard your neck gets worked in those cars. After 3 laps you're done. So yeah, I'm preparing as best I can, but I think there's only so much I'll be able to do. And
just
even
F1
drivers, exactly, yeah. Even F1 drivers, after winter or something, they get back in the car and they're always tired in pre-season, just because you can't really train for it. Like you can't really train your neck for that sort of stuff. You just have to get in the car and drive. That's the only way you can do it. But no, I think it'll be a really cool experience, and it's an opportunity that is definitely not going to go amiss. That's for sure.
I know. I think I saw a picture of Ollie Behrman's sort of like headrest at the end of the race that he did, and like it was completely crushed at the end. I was like, I'm not surprised, because the amount of strength that you need to have is just like, I can't even imagine it, to be honest.
No, and Ollie's quite one of the fitter ones as well. Like in Formula 2, he does a lot of training. Obviously Formula 2's more physical than Formula 3 by a decent amount, but it's nowhere near the levels of Formula 1. So I think it's going to be tough, but it's going to be so much fun. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I'm excited for you already. So do you have a track that you're looking forward to the most, a race weekend that you're the most excited about this season, or are you just taking every race as it comes?
Monaco is going to be awesome. I don't really need to think about it.
Yeah.
And also having a little taste of a semi-street circuit like Melbourne, I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the fact that I was really close to the walls, and I felt like I was probably one of the ones that was actually putting it more on the line
thrived off that.
than the others. So yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this is when I turn up to Monaco and I'm last, but
don't jinx yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we'll
let's
see.
not manifest that.
No. Let's manifest a P1. But
absolutely.
But no, we'll see. It's going to be cool. Just to be in Monaco to experience the atmosphere that's around the circuit. Yeah, just a race at Monaco. Really, it's going to be pretty cool.
I don't think there's anything quite like it. So the glitz, the glamour, the noises, the crowds. Yeah, it's just going to be incredible. So yeah,
for sure.
Enjoy that one. Okay, so for the future, it's okay if you don't have an answer for this or you don't want to reveal anything. But what do you think the future looks like for Joseph Loake?
I don't know what I'm doing next Tuesday, so.
That's so fine.
No, I don't know. I think a lot of it depends on results for me. I can't sit here and say, well, I'm going to do this year in F3, then I'll do another year of F3, then I'll do F2 for 2 years, and then I'll be in Formula 1, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do that, because that's not how it works. There's all of us want to be in Formula 1, and there's only 20 seats, so or at least there is for now. I don't know. I mean, this year's sorted. Obviously, I'll be doing the whole of F3 this year. Then after that, we've got to try and figure out what the best option is. Obviously, I would ideally like to have a look at Formula 3. The car is going to be changing for next year to a new spec of car, which will mix up the grid. So potentially a team like, for example, Rodin, who are struggling at the moment, maybe they'll be quick next year and they'll be the team to beat. So, you kind of rolling the dice a little bit for next year. But the main thing is to just make sure that I open as many doors as I can this year and give myself options rather than sitting there at the end of the year and going, well, I'm stuck. I don't have anywhere to go. So, just got to try and open up some doors and see what opportunities I can give myself. And after that, we'll go from there.
Exciting. I'm excited to see what's ahead for you. Do you have any off-track aspirations? Any projects that you're working on, or anything, I guess, totally outside of racing that you'd like to explore?
I've never been asked that before. No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I do.
Because you see a lot of people have like passion projects or even just hobbies that they're interested in, like whether that's music, a different sport. You see a lot of drivers these days playing paddle in their spare time. Is there anything that, like, even if it's what you love doing to unwind, is there anything like off track that you just feel is quite therapeutic for you, I guess?
A lot of it is sim racing. However, now that you've reminded, so it was actually Callum Voisin who he sent me a message before Bahrain, because we were out there for a little while beforehand. And he just messaged me. He was like, right, so do you fancy going and playing paddle? And I was like, okay, sure. So we went and played paddle. It was quite fun, but it's not, I don't know. I wouldn't really say it's something that I would, I wouldn't go tomorrow and go and play paddle. Yeah. It's something that I do if I'm bored while I'm away at a race weekend, and I'd go and play it with another driver or something. So no, I don't think I do.
No.
Maybe I should. Maybe that's something that I should look into. I should try and find something. Maybe I should start painting. There we go. That's a new
Paint
one.
by numbers, or maybe just something abstract.
It won't be abstract. I'm not good enough for that. But I'll have to do one of the dot to dots.
I feel like the abstract one's the easiest, like the paint splatters, just like the big strokes. When you look at something and think, I could do like,
here's one. I could get into helmet painting or helmet designing or something like that. That'd be quite cool.
I've heard there's a big market for that.
There is. There's only a few people that do it. That's a good idea. Oh,
should give it a go. I was actually thinking I might have a look at even just doing some mock-ups, because I'm fascinated by helmet designs and I love like creating content around different bespoke helmets that drivers do. But
yeah, no, I like to think that I'm, well, it's not really me. I don't know why I'm taking the credit, but my helmet designer it was obviously last year's helmet. I'm using it this year of my paint splattered blue helmet, whatever you want to call it. I think that's pretty cool. And also we've got something in the pipelines for later this year for a cheeky special helmet.
Okay.
which would be quite cool as well, which nobody has heard of yet. So
exclusive.
That'll be, that's
Keep an eye out for that one then.
Exactly. There you go. So that'll be coming later in the year. I've got a special helmet that's being designed at the moment. It is pretty much designed now. It'll start being painted in the next few days, so that's going to be quite cool. I think everyone's going to love that one.
That is exciting. Oh, I love a special helmet. I actually did a video last week about when they banned more than one special helmet a year in Formula One between 2015 and 2020, because they said, the FIA said that they wanted to be able to differentiate drivers better, but they've scrapped it now. So there you go.
I didn't know that. I did not know that was a thing.
Both learning something new every day.
There you go.
Final question. We ask all of our guests, if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I'd probably say something along the lines of kind of just don't get down about things that don't matter. Like something that I had in F4, it was I'd always just beat myself up over little things, and it was silly, and it would ruin my whole weekend just because I'd put myself in a bad mood. So I'd say, if I was to give myself one bit of advice, it would be just don't let things get to you, and just go with the flow and take the positives if they come, and try and learn from the negatives rather than beat yourself up about them.
It feels like that's what you're doing at the moment, for sure. Thrown in at the deep end and just going with the flow.
Yeah, well, I'm trying.
No, you're doing incredibly well. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to see what you get up to in the future, to watch you race for the rest of this season, and just to see what life has in store for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Of course. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
And I'll pop all of your social media links in the description as well. And thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in my next episode. Fabulous.